Welcome everybody uh, to our new team admin meeting. I think we're at max capacity at this point in time, so we'll go ahead and get started. Thanks for joining us tonight. Hope you're looking forward to the start of the fall 2022 season. I know many of you probably are starting training this week or next week and ready to get back at it. But it's tonight we're really hoping that we provide you with a lot of good information regarding the around NCSL and how to be successful in your role as a team admin. I'm Ryan Rich. I'm the executive director of NCSL, and I'm joined here with Allison Smith, who's the league admin for the league. So if you're there are two main point of contacts outside, or your club reps will be the main point of contacts with us. But it's good that we're able to see our faces, so you know who's kind of behind the scenes here, working to help you. So we'll go ahead and get started with the agenda. This is what we'll be going over, giving you a little bit of introduction to the league in case you're new, and then going over the important roles, including team administrator, which are the roles. If you're on this call, it's most likely your role. League administrator role, club representative, and then end it with the laws and procedures specific to NCSL and a little about the referees and discipline part of things. So what we're going over tonight, we're going to focus on how NCSL works, how to communicate with the league, and then probably what you're most interested in understanding your responsibilities as a team admin for an NCSL team. At the bottom here, you'll see we are on social media. These are our tags here in case you want to follow us. We'll post things on here regarding events that are coming up. You'll likely see information about our college combine that we have coming up at the probably around Thanksgiving. So you'll see information about that. But we post other things related to the league, so feel free to hop on and follow us there. So welcome to NCSL. If you're new, if you're a returning team admin, hope that we are able to provide some good information and answer any questions you might have. So NCSL at a glance. So it's the largest league in the DMV area. We have 60 plus clubs from Maryland, DC, Virginia, West Virginia. We've had a couple teams participate from Pennsylvania. We have nearly 1,000 teams spanning U9 to U19. And each club is a member of the league. So we have all our member clubs participate on our board of directors, which meets 5 times a year. And we also have a smaller group, our executive committee, that meets monthly to go over important league items and any issues we need to address, or maybe policies we need to come up with. So just here, it's a big league, and there's a lot of moving parts going on, but we try our best to make it a great experience for teams and players to get on the field and have a competitively appropriate experience every weekend. In case you're new to the youth soccer landscape, even as a league, working in the league environment and having been part of a club staff member, it's still very difficult to understand sometimes all the moving parts in the youth soccer landscape. And it seems like every tryout season, there's some new league or merger that's popping up. So we just want to use this slide to be able to go over a little bit about where NCSL fits in the U.S. soccer landscape, and just in some of the kind of key terms you might hear. So at the very top of the pyramid, obviously, is FIFA, which is the international body. U.S. soccer is at the national level, or is our national governing body. And then underneath, we have U.S. Soccer as some sanctioning bodies underneath that. And so we're under USU Soccer. You might have also heard about U.S. Club Soccer, which is they do very similar things. It's USU Soccer's competitor in the marketplace. But we are affiliated with USU Soccer. So within the main differentiator between USU Soccer and US Club Soccer is USU Soccer has state associations where US Club doesn't necessarily have that component of it. So you've probably at this time or point in time or potentially very soon or will be interacting with your state association in order to get your state roster finalized and to receive that roster and also your player cards. So if you're in Virginia, that's BYSA, Maryland, MSYSA, in West Virginia, state association. If you're part of that, those are the three main state associations that we work with. And so at this point in time, you probably have been contacted by your club representative to submit forms of birth certificates, photos of players on your team, so that they can get uploaded into the state association, so they can produce your roster and your player cards. Underneath the state associations, we're an official travel league of 3 state associations. As mentioned before, we have 60 plus clubs in the league, and every club is a representative on the board of directors. And those are usually the people coming to our board of directors meetings are usually the club reps for each club. And those club reps are usually ones that we interact with the most, and we'll be going over that role later on in the presentation. And of course, at the bottom of the pyramid, which it's last but not least, and probably the most important piece is the players and the families that are involved at the club level, and that's where we support you as team admins and the coaches with understanding kind of the league policies and navigating the league environment. So hopefully that gives you a broad overview of at the international level all the way down to the local level where we are. So the first role that we'll be going over is a team admin role, and going into this right away because this is your role and probably the role that you are most interested in learning about and understanding as the end of the season. So the most important thing right off the bat is just to introduce you to the website. If you haven't been on there, you probably want to bookmark it because for the most part, you can find a lot of the questions that might come up. You can find the answers to on our website. And the black boxes here are kind of the key tabs or the key links that you'll want to find. It's on that left-hand side in the left-hand menu. You'll have the schedules, kind of our cheat sheets that we've put together. I'll show you in a second what those are. Any frequently asked questions, and also same reporting link. So if you have these are the most cited things that people are looking for. So we've kind of put them right on our website to make sure that it's accessible and it's easy to find. So I mentioned the previous slide is the key resources, and I'm going to come out of the presentation just to show you some of these. And these again are back on the website. So you'll see here team admin cheat sheet, team admin season checklist. Those are these 2 documents that I'm going to show you. And these are probably the 2 documents that you definitely want to bookmark. It kind of gives you a step-by-step when preparing for the season, what you should do in preseason, during the season, and game day. And so it's good to have these on hand because we have heard from people, especially on the game day cheat sheet, that if there's any confusion at the field of, okay, how do we do check-in? Do we have the C cards? What are the length of the halves for certain age groups? That it's an easy link to go to and be able to show, the other team or the referee exactly what, the rules of NCSL. And so we send this information out to the referees as well, especially the game day cheat sheet, so they can see, especially if they're going from game to game and they might ref an EDP game or regional league game before an NCSL game, and sometimes those rules can differ slightly, and it's important we want to have that information in front of them so they can quickly access it alongside team admins. So I'm gonna come out of here real quick and just show you some of that, some of this information. So here is the team admin season checklist, and I'll go see if I can make this bigger for you. And as you can see, it's outlined basically by the time of the year. So we're right now in the preseason, kind of gives you a whole host of things that you should be paying attention to. Many of the things probably your club rep has already forwarded to you and made you aware of. If not, this is a good place to go and just go step by step and just click on some of these links to make sure you're taking care of that. But it really, all these steps right here are the primary things that you really need to take care of going to season to make sure that you're all set for the first weekend of games. And then you scroll down and you're getting into the pregame, what you should be doing leading up to the week of the game, and then the game day, and also the post game. So this is a good document to make sure that especially if you're new to access this, and maybe you'll need this for the first 2, 3, 4 games to make sure you're really getting everything and checking every box. And after a while, I'm sure it'll seem like second nature to do all these things, but it's also at that point a good reference to come back to and just make sure you're not missing anything. So this is one important document to know about, along with this one. This one's obviously a lot shorter, but this is more just, hey, we're at the field. I forgot, hey, do we need, how many club pass players can we have in the game? And what kind of roster should we be using? And this just kind of a one-sheeter it can answer some of those questions and just act as a reference guide for games. And so this is another document to have on hand and just bookmarked so it's easy to access, because as I said before, we've had teams that there have been kind of this confusion in the field of one team says, hey, it's, you can only have 3 guest players or club pass players, and the other team is saying, well, no, I heard somewhere that you could have unlimited club pass players, and then go with this document right at the field in real time to solve that. Yeah, it can be really, really valuable. So going back into the presentation here, and this is a reminder. This is if I didn't say before, this presentation will be sent out with these links. But again, these links are also on the website and can be accessed there as well. And in terms of the rosters, if you're new, you probably have never heard of a blue game card. But if you're a team admin that's been around for a while, you may have heard that. We used to use these printed blue game cards that club reps would take at our in-person board directors meetings and hand it out to the teams, and that's what they would use to bring to every game. And since COVID, we sort of evolved and moved away from that procedure. And what we ask for teams to do is to use their state-approved, USYS state-approved roster. So here's an example. The Virginia one, from what I understand, Maryland looks very similar to this. Most of the rosters now have a roster there, but also pictures of the players on the physical roster as well. And this is what we encourage team admins to bring to the game for check-in. So as a reminder, you have to bring a roster and you have to bring player cards. So addressing the team roster first, you have to have a physical roster. And just to point out some key elements that we really encourage at the top, to put the game number, the team number, the date of the game, because what's going to happen is you're going to give this physical roster to a referee, and it's going to be one piece of paper out of probably 7 or 8 that they're going to collect that day. And you want to make it as easy as possible for the referees to go back and enter in the referee report. So you have this information at the top. It's really easy for them to log that information versus It's been a long day in the field, and now they're having to go back to sit in front of the computer and kind of remember, okay, it just takes some, it makes some process more efficient. And so now sort of moving down the roster, along the same lines of helping referees out and also avoiding any confusion when it comes to sit-outs, is clearly marking out any players that won't be attending the game, just striking through their names. And if a player is going to be sitting out because they had a red card last game, or they have accumulated a certain number of yellow cards that requires them to sit out, that's really important to make that very obvious. So it's crossing a player out and then also putting sit out, so that referees can mark on their game report that a player sat out, which then shows us in our system that, okay, that player satisfied the requirement. What we don't want to happen is that for some reason the player isn't marked through, or it's not clear. And then when it comes to the referee report, if a player got a red card last game and it based on the referee report, it shows that a player did play, then that can result in forfeits, players sitting out even more games, a coach being penalized and they're having to sit out more games, all because it just was a simple error. And it's much harder to kind of confirm those things after the fact. Even if he can email the other team and say, hey, this player sat out, because likely they don't know who that player was and they don't remember, and so it just gets a lot harder to do that after the fact. So just trying to address that ahead of time and at the game makes things more efficient. And then pointing your attention to the bottom of this roster is that we do, for games, allow unlimited club pass players. And so if you have age appropriate players within your club, you can have them guest play. We don't have any limit to that. And that was we kind of tested it out during COVID, and it went really well. We didn't have any huge issues with that, so we're extending that to the fall season. What we ask is that when you come to the games, that you write the player's name and come with their player cards. And so that kind of leads to the next part of it. You have this physical roster, but then you also need to provide player cards. The referee needs to see that those player cards as well. They can be printed, you can be laminated, and you show a sheet of your players, but they also can be shown electronically. If you've got a PDF on your phone or you've got a PDF on your iPad, we do allow that, except those during games. And we tell referees that the physical roster, we need that. But when it comes to player cards, you can swipe through it and say and allow that for check-in. And the next important piece after the game is the game scoring. This game score reporting. Previously, it's been probably several seasons now, we had division scorekeepers where team admin would email the score, the winning team would email a division scorekeeper. We've eliminated that. Now you click on a link, you enter the PIN and the game number, and you can enter the score right on the website, and it makes it a little easier. So we'll go over that in a further slide, but just we'll provide the PIN number. You have your game number, and the procedure is the winning team enters a score. If there's a tie, then both teams report it. And that's where we're here right now. So if you click on that link, this is where it comes. And the PIN number is 3101. And that PIN number is also on a game day cheat sheet. So you don't have to write this down somewhere. As long as you have a link to that team admin cheat sheet for the game day, it has that information right on there. So now we're moving on to league administrator role, and that's Allison's role here at the league. So I'll let her talk about her role, and she's tremendously helpful. If you haven't most likely interacted with her, emailed with her, she's all the club reps' favorite person because she's super informative, friendly, and easy to get along with. So she's a very valuable asset to the league, and she's going to have some really great information, especially when it comes to what you're probably really interested at this point in time is, I've got a game I need to reschedule. How do I do that? So she'll be addressing that and some other really important things in this next part. So Allison, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate it. Everybody, thank you for joining us tonight. We appreciate your attendance and coming to learn more about our policies and how the league runs. That will certainly make the season run a lot more smoothly for all of us. So as Ryan mentioned, my primary job with the league is to set up and maintain the schedule during the season. And you all hopefully have seen your team schedules by now. By going to the website and clicking on your club and then clicking on your team. The team page is also where you access your administrative sign-in from your team page. And then from there, you can do all kinds of things. You can add your player roster, which is required if your team is U12 and up, which you'll hear more about later. You can modify your contact information if you want to add your cell phone number or change your address or change your sign-in, that kind of thing. You can do all sorts of things from your team page. So the schedule is out, and we will talk about the flex rescheduling in just a little bit. But on game day, I just want to briefly address what happens if your game is canceled for some reason. If it's a weather-related field closure, then the club reps or their field administrators from the clubs contact me directly, and I will post on the NCSL website. There is a place on the left-hand side that you'll see in a little bit that says field closures. And if it's green, everything's open. If it's yellow, then there are some fields closed. Please use only that information about whether or not the field is closed that your game is scheduled on. Sometimes Parks and Rec will send out a local email saying that certain fields will close, but your club reps also receive that information. And sometimes you may have a game on turf that isn't directly affected by some of the grass field closures. So please use our website to find out if your field is closed and if your game is canceled. I will also subsequently email a reschedule for the game. That's also part of what I do on game weekends. Is as soon as a field is closed and your game needs to be rescheduled, then I'll automatically reschedule it to the next available date for both teams. So if it's typically the following Saturday, but if your team already has a game that day, then we go to the next Saturday. Then you as team manager and the opposing team manager and coaches will have an opportunity about a 2 or 3 day window. It's pretty quick to reschedule. If the rained out game doesn't work for your team or your coach, then you'll have a quick little window to use the flex rescheduling. Sometimes, occasionally, if your game is canceled or if your field is closed, if it works to move the game to another nearby turf field around the same time, then we will look to try to reschedule that way so that we can get the game played on the day in which it was intended. Doesn't always happen, but occasionally, and you will be in communication with your club rep and or the other team to make all that happen. So it won't be a surprise. Once you hear from your club rep or if you checked on the NCSO website and seen that the field is closed, then if you're the home team, please contact your opponent as soon as possible to let them know. We start as early as 5 in the morning on weekends, checking fields and posting that information. So as soon as you see that the field is closed or you get the email that the game's rescheduled, please contact your opponent if you're the home team to make sure that they don't get in the car and travel. Then if you're at the field and there's lightning or the rain is worse or the conditions become unsafe, then the referee ultimately has the final say on whether or not the game will be played. If the game is deemed unplayable even after it's started, then our NCSL policy is to reschedule the game to be played from the beginning. And again, we use the same policy as before, where it will be rescheduled to the next available date for both teams. And then you'll have a little window of time to reschedule if needed. If you don't have a referee, and this is outside of weather-related conditions, if a referee does not show up at the field at your game, which happens from time to time, then our policy is for the teams, the coaches or team managers or both to discuss with each other and make a decision if you're going to play the game with a volunteer, which is fine. We encourage that, particularly for the really young U9, U10 teams. We encourage that they play with a volunteer referee. Then that's great. And you're not allowed to then protest the result of the game. Both coaches agree that the game is played, and then the score is reported. If it's a small-sided game, then you don't have to report the score. But if it's U11 and above, then if the coaches agree to play with a volunteer ref, then that game will stand as the result. Whatever the result is, will stand. If there's not a referee and even if only one coach says, I don't want my kids to play unless there's a referee, then that's fine. Everybody goes home and the game will be rescheduled to the next available date for both teams. We try really hard to solicit referees to get certified. We're always looking for new young referees. Your club reps got some information today, actually, and then on our website, we work pretty hard with clubs to encourage referee certification. And we have a lot of incentives as well. If a referee works 25 or more NCSL games in one season, they get a $200 bonus. If you are in Virginia, then one of our largest assigners in Virginia has offered to pay for half of the certification course if a referee works 10 NCSL games. So for more information about that, contact your club reps, and you can figure out where to go sign up to certify as a referee. So that is kind of my job in a nutshell. And like I said, we'll talk a little bit more about flex rescheduling in a little bit. And then Ryan, you got the next slide. There we go. Okay. So flex rescheduling. Now, years and years ago, once the NCSL schedules were released, that was it. That was your schedule, and you had to play or not show up, and that was it. So we realized in the last probably 5 to 7 years that doesn't really work for busy families in this area. So we do offer an online flex rescheduling request option. There are a lot of parameters. The games, we work really, really hard to set up the schedule. Let me just start by saying that. We work really hard to set up the schedule where the games are scheduled efficiently within the field permits that were given. That's for purposes of encouraging referees to come and work a block of games. The games are set up where the coach conflicts that we know about, we avoid those. And that teams that are traveling from far distances, we work really hard to make sure they don't have to get up and play an 8 a.m. game if they're going a really long distance. So with all that in mind, if there is some reason, a good reason that your team needs to request a reschedule, then there's a button on your team page. And again, you go to your team page and then there's a little team login. Once you've signed in, you see an example of what your team admin website will look like. And up in the upper right-hand corner, it says reschedule request. There's a whole online video on our website for more information, and I won't go over that now. You can watch the video, but it's pretty straightforward. A few things to keep in mind. If you're the home team, you must get your approval from your club that the field that you want to play on the date or the time that you want to play is available. That's critical. So if you're the home team, make sure that the field and the date and the time and everything is all capiche. Then, and then the second thing is you have to have these reschedule requests submitted to your club rep by the deadlines. So for any games in September, that deadline is the first Friday in September. It's the 2nd of September. And the way the reschedule works is once you whoever initiates fills out their reschedule request, it automatically goes to the opposing team. Once the reschedule information matches, then the emails go to your club reps. And that's, and again, if you're the home team, you need to make sure that the information you've entered for when you want to reschedule the game is available. The field and the time and the date are all available. Once the club reps get the email, they have final approval. And then once they approve, they forward the emails to me. And that's when the change is made. Please remember that the change is not official until it shows up on your team page. And every single time I reschedule anything, whether it's a field closure or a flex reschedule, or if we have to reschedule a game for State Cup or some other reason, you will always get an email with that reschedule. It's a good idea when you're looking at your team pages to clear your cache. I always say that wrong. You got to clear your history and your cache every once in a while to make sure that the team page is loading properly and that you have up-to-date information. The second deadline for the online rescheduling is for any games in October or November, and that deadline is Friday, September 23rd. This information is all on our website. We have a little calendar button with all this information. One other thing to keep in mind when you're asking to reschedule a game, please do not request one of our rain dates. We reserve 3 dates at the end of the season. It's always the next to last Saturday of the week of the season, and then the whole last weekend of the season. And there have been seasons where we had to use all those dates and all those times. So initially, especially, please do not request to use those last 3 rain dates. As we get into the season, if we have beautiful weather and sunny weekends, then we tend to open up that time for reschedule requests. But not, until then, please do not request that. And again, more information about how to complete an online flex reschedule request is on our website. There's a video to watch, and then there are steps. There's a link to show you the steps on how to do it. And if you have any questions, please contact your club rep. Okay. Yep. Okay. I think I said all this. Home team checks with your field coordinator. That's a good point. I did not mention is that these requests are requests only. And if there is a stack of games, let's say there's 3 games on a field, which is a very appealing option for referees, because then they can work as a center, an AR, and an AR in a set of 3 games. And that's a very appealing process. But if your game is in the middle of that stack of games and you ask to reschedule it, then that leaves an early game and a late game and a gap in between. And that's a lot harder to get referees for. So we tend to not as quickly approve those, or sometimes not approve them at all. And then also, if you create a situation where your game is a set of stack, is inside a stack of games, whether it's in the middle or the beginning or the end, but you ask to reschedule and you're the only game for the day, that is another very unattractive option for referees. So we try to avoid what we call standalone or single games on the fields. And then ultimately, it is up to your home team, club rep, and the field admin if there's a field space available and if they're going to approve, trying to make sure that the reschedule request fits within the parameters that we have proposed. So Ryan, let's see. Okay, so you've heard us talk about your club representatives. I love the club reps for NCSL. They're amazing people. They're so easy to work with. And most of them are volunteers or are doing this just for the love of youth soccer, which is the bottom line for all that we do is getting kids on fields playing soccer. So club representative, if you aren't sure who your club rep is, it's on the website. You go to the blue banner across the top that says clubs, and then you click on your club, and at the bottom of the club page has your NCSL club representative. Sometimes there's an assistant club rep. The field admin is listed. Several people who are important to your club and to you as you go through the NCSL season are all listed there. The club reps, one of the primary jobs that the club reps have is to answer your questions and to work with you. You'll get faster answers from them. If you email me or Ryan, we have a bigger scope for the league. So you'll get a faster answer and really good information from your club reps. They are the ones who liaise directly with Ryan and me from your club. So if you have a question that they can't answer, then they will come to us and get the information back to you. But I'm telling you, they're very, very capable people and wonderful people to help get kids on soccer fields playing. They get information from us weekly. We send weekly email updates. Plus they are, as a club rep, they are a member of the board of directors for NCSL. And the board of directors are the ones who decide all of our NCSL policies, all of the rules and regulations. So anytime you have any questions about the league or have suggestions on how to improve things, please go to your club rep, and then they bring your voice collectively to the board meetings. They coordinate all the functions between the clubs and with NCSL. They help, I mentioned the rainouts. They communicate with me when the fields are closed, which I did forget to mention. If you have a situation one weekend where your team is unable to play and you need to forfeit, which we don't like to have happen, but occasionally it does. If you have to forfeit a game, please tell your club rep so that the club reps can tell us so that we can make sure to take the game off the schedule. If we don't know about a forfeit and referees show up at the field, then we still have to pay the referees, and it's a waste of time and energy, and they could have been used probably on another game somewhere else. But it is critical that you communicate with your club rep, and they in turn will communicate with you and disseminate information that we send out from the league. So that is kind of club rep role in a nutshell. They're wonderful people. So Ryan, I think that is the next slide. Is that, there we go. There's the website. There's the club's link across the blue banner. If you clicked on that, then it'll show you the list of all the 70 clubs in NCSL. So you click on the one that you're in, and you'll see, you can click on the complete club schedule once you get on the club page, but the club representative's name is at the bottom of the club page. And then he has boxes around all of the links that will help you find information that we've talked about tonight. And then also, you know, what you can ask your club rep about any questions, but you can also find a lot of answers on their website before you even reach out to them. Back to you, Ryan.
Great. No, thanks, Allison.
Thank you.
And just to reiterate, you know, especially when we get into the season, you know, when it comes to the rescheduling and you know, and helping things go smoothly during the season, she's really the engine kind of behind the scenes there, and really working hard with the club reps. You know, so it's and you know, we'll say that you know, if you're touching base with your club reps and they reach out to us, we try to be as responsive as possible, and knowing that, you know, some of these issues can be pretty time sensitive. We want to make sure that, you know, we're on top of it and getting you the answers as quickly as possible. So now I'm kind of moving into the laws and procedures. You know, just some things that are kind of reminders about that are applicable to all leagues, and just making sure that you know that to be aware of them. But also, there's some procedures that are very specific to NCSL that we want to make sure that you all understand. So here's some things, you know, just generally speaking, you know, you kind of fall into the specific age groups, and just kind of giving some kind of a few bullet points just to keep in mind, you know, and some of these things you probably already know, but just understanding the max number of players you can have at a game at U9, U10, and also at U11, U12. The max number of players you have on a roster is the same as the max number of players you have at a game, so that is easy to match up there. At U13 and above, there's a possibility you could add up to 22 players on your roster, but only 18 of those players can be dressed for a game. And also, just another thing to point out, at the 9s and 10s, we don't put game results and on the website. We track those on the back end. So in the spring, we can, you know, kind of use that data along with you know, club feedback, with our team placement, and also geography, the best placed teams. But we don't put that on the website. It's just to kind of you know, it's not a huge focus at those age groups. When at U11, if you're a U11 team, this is your last season as kind of without numbered divisions. We use the results from the U11 fall to inform our U11 spring, and that's when we go into Division 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. So that's for U11 fall. It's still it's still kind of you know, it's not numbered divisions. And just to highlight, one thing that's common across all of the age groups is the unlimited club pass. Just to reiterate that again, we did at the younger age groups have unlimited club pass, and as you got older, is up to 5. As mentioned before, we expanded out to the unlimited club pass in response to COVID, and I think that's been pretty successful, and rolling that out, and so that's something we're continuing on to give flexibility to clubs, and you know, in case that they're maybe have, you know, lighter rosters, and you need to be able to maneuver players around to you know, place them and challenge players in different environments. So again, here are the main kind of changes that have been changes for a couple seasons now. So if you're a returning team admin, you probably know some of this stuff. But if you're new, then this is definitely some things to know that might be different than if you were maybe a team admin 5 or 6 years ago. So unlimited club passes, but just a reminder that the players have to have a USYS card. So a player plays on an ECNL team or an ECNL regional league team, they'll have a US club card, and that won't be permissible to use as when showing referee for a USYS game. So just usually clubs are the ones who are kind of on top of it in terms of the club admin who is kind of doing the registration, and that would provide you the right card. So just making sure that if you have a Club Pass player, they have a USYS card, they're from within your club. So if you're an Alexandria team, you can't have FPYC player coming in with their FPYC USYS card guest playing. They also have to be age eligible. So if you're a U12 team, you can't have a U13 player playing down. You can't have a U11 player playing up, though, in that case. And just a reminder, I think this has been has been successful in allowing more flexibility in the Club Pass system, because the clubs and the teams utilize this, and this understand the spirit of the Club Pass system is not to game the system and try to provide an unfair advantage and try to win the league by having a Club Pass player. Before I go on, I saw something in the chat just in terms of the build out line. I remember I kind of skipped that over. So just the build out line in U9s and U10s, and this is a link to a picture of it. So I'll just click on this and see. To the build line, but I have a picture in here. If I don't, this video is actually Allison's son who's doing it, so it's very informative in terms of the knowledge of the belt lines. But build line, essentially, if you don't know what that is, it's for U9 and U10 teams only, and essentially it can be a physical, it can be a painted line, but it could also be cones that are set down on the sideline in a kind of imaginary line, but it's a line between the top of the goal box and the halfway line. And so whenever the goalkeeper has the ball in their hands, or after a save, or if a goal kick, the opposing team has to back up behind that line. And once the ball is touched, then the opposing team that's pressuring the ball can step in front of that line. The reasoning behind it is something that was put back in 2016. That the reasoning behind it is to allow those younger age groups, build their confidence in playing out of the back and building play up the field without such intense pressure right away. So that's you'll likely see that. Your club may have turf fields where it's literally painted on there, or you might have a referee that comes up to you or the coach before the start of the game and asks for cones so they can place them on the sidelines to mark the build out line. And also just a reminder about U9 U10s, there's no punting, and then no heading as well, and then that goes through U11. So hopefully that gives you an idea about the build out line, but it's something you're going to find in league play. You might almost certainly see that in tournaments as well. But the whole gist of it is to encourage players to have more confidence playing out of the back, and that's something it's wherever you go, that's going to be the case regardless of league. So moving on to the game of procedures, players can play in more than one game a day. So if we've allowed that. Again, we've allowed that kind of flexibility, and alongside the limited club passes, it's been well received and I think utilized pretty responsibly by clubs. And although that we allow individual players to play in more than one game per day, it doesn't apply to the team level. Usually have teams play one game a day, but if you have an individual player that might need to go help out a team because they're short, it's will allow those kind of situations. And as mentioned before, we used to have blue game cards. And if you don't know what those are, then it doesn't really kind of apply to you. But just make sure that you're using your USYS state approved roster that your club rep should be able to provide you in a PDF and also a PDF of the player cards as well. And team admins now report games directly to the league. We don't use division scorekeepers, but that's something that's been in place for 2 or 3 seasons at this point. And just a reminder, here's a picture of the team roster, and at the bottom here, that's where you list the club pass players, and you can just write them in, and as long as you have the player card for that player that shows that they're from within your club, they have their USYS registered, and they're age appropriate, you're good to go. And just one final piece on that, you also just want to make it clear, you still have to abide by the max game day roster. So you can't have, if you're a U9 team, the max game day roster is 12. You can't have 11 of your players show up and then have 3 guest players that puts you, at 14. You still have to abide by that 12. Just wanted to make sure that was clear. And another program we have is a team sportsmanship liaison, and this is the thing really important, especially with the referee shortage we're dealing with now, and we'll talk about a little later. Just briefly, is one of the top cited reasons why referees are leaving or don't come back is just because of the abuse that they kind of endure on the sidelines, and it's not necessarily just one-off, just huge incidents. It's kind of just the accumulation of just nagging, this call or that call wasn't appropriate, and it can build up, and at the end of the day, it can be pretty exhausting for referees, and so we each team should have this team sportsmanship liaison who really should have a pretty even-keeled person who's respected, kind of as a calm demeanor that can help sense when things are getting a little out of control on the sidelines, and be able to be the point of contact for the referee to go to kind of help settle parents down. So it's really helpful to have a parent do that versus the referee trying to mediate that situation, which a lot of times is very difficult for them to do, and also pay attention to the game. So now there's the last part, referee rules and discipline committee. As I mentioned before, we've been on calls with referee signers and states, associations about kind of where we are with the referee pool, and it was kind of a shocking statistic that they let us know about, that 50% of the referee pool is replaced every year, and they're really going into the fall seasons are really scrambling to try to get back to even, or even just to try to get close to that. And just to also realize too that there are because of COVID, and because that a lot of the senior referees, that was kind of their that was kind of the moment where they said, hey, that's a good time for me to stop. And that a lot of the referees coming in are new grassroots referees who I've talked to a lot of referee signers who are these grassroots referees, usually the ones that last 5 or 6 games, and that's kind of a critical time period. So if referees can get past those 5 or 6 games, they usually stick with it for a longer, for a long period of time. It's just that if they can manage a game and be in the right environment where they're not being, not having a bad experience in those critical first 5 to 6 games, that's really important to important threshold there. So anything that we can do at the team level, the club level, the league level, just to understand that these are referees out there are trying their best. No, they're not. I haven't met a referee at the youth level that I thought was really trying to go for one team versus the other, and I think they're all trying to do their best, and it's you're going to get referees getting yelled at. I still play men's league soccer, and the amount of abuse referees get from men's league soccer, I think it's no matter where you are, it's always there. I think that that's a culture change that I think that we can all be part of to help change. And really, I think that just understanding that a lot of these referees coming in are young kids, um, 15, 16, 17-year-old kids that, if you're getting yelled at from a 30, 40-year-old parent, and that's really intimidating. And just to kind of keep that in mind when, we're at games and it's a bad call, at least we'll penalty and you lose the game. It's just kind of the looking at it as an opportunity to be a good model for your players on the field, and understanding that, as a learning experience. So that's just one to highlight there, because I think that's something that's just become really evident over the last couple of years. And it's not just soccer; it's all different sports all across the country. We're all dealing with this issue. So now let's touch upon the R&D committee. So our R&D committee, we have Alan Paez is our R&D chair. He works with Eric Tin, who's our R&D admin, and they work closely with me. They work closely with Allison, and basically, essentially reviewing match reports and any issues that kind of come in, and kind of determining what the best course of action. And some of those reports that are coming in could be as simple as the net was ripped on the field, and just notifying teams that just to fix the net again. But there's obviously sometimes where there are bigger issues than that, and that gets escalated to our R&D committee, our R&D chair, who makes a determination of that. So the main thing I want to highlight is that we do take these match reports seriously. We do take these, if there's an issue, we don't kind of just sweep it under the rug and don't address it. We want to make sure that we create a fair, competitive environment that, and try to highlight safety and make sure that, that each team's kind of getting a fair shake on the games, and that we're going to pay attention if there's any issues that come up. So that's what mainly I want to bring to your attention here, as with the primarily what they will do. And one important piece, and if you're a U12 team, you need to put in your roster, and I'm sure your club rep has already sent you a list of U12 teams that need their names and jersey numbers in the XXL system. And we need that because referees, when they put their game reports in, they have to sign a red card to this player, yellow card to that player, and we keep track of that in our system. And you're able to see that on your end if you log into your team page. You'll see persons with receiving cards, and if you click on that, you'll see a list of players, and so you can kind of keep track of where your players are. Most of the time, it's pretty obvious when a player gets a red card. Most people understand that they need to sit out the next game. But one thing is kind of always trips people up every single season is the accumulation of yellow cards, which I'll kind of go over to the next slide. But it's something that it's the responsibility of the team admin to keep track of that and making sure that they know when a player should be sitting out. We try to be as helpful as possible. So on a Wednesday, we'll send out an email, a courtesy email saying, we went through the system, we flagged this player got a red card last game, they need to sit out this game, or we'll try to be our best as possible to keep track of the yellow cards. So we'll notify you the Wednesday before the weekend game, so that we don't end up in a situation where, that player was supposed to sit out, you won the game, but you had an illegal player and we have to forfeit games at that point in time. We don't want that kind of situation to happen. And so we try to be, we want you to pay attention to this and make sure that you're keeping track of it, but we'll also try to be proactive on our end to notify you during the season. And now kind of going to the points. So it's kind of disciplinary points associated with yellow cards and red cards. The big things to know are yellow cards is 5 points, red cards is 10 points. Once you hit 20 points, so if you hit 4 yellow cards for a player, that's generally the time when we hear, I didn't know if this player was to sit out, because that's something that doesn't it kind of accumulates and you don't really pay attention to it. But just understand that there are disciplinary points that are going on with it. And the big thing to highlight is that if a coach is getting cards, they get more disciplinary points because of that, especially if they get the first card in the match, they get additional penalty points that go along with that. And if you get a red card, you definitely have to sit out. But if that coach then hits 20, they have to sit out again. And just to reiterate that, the coaches, the team officials need to be the models out there, and how to behave, how to handle setbacks, how to handle situations that, calls that might not go their way. And we expect those coaches to be the ones that are there, setting a good example. And so if they're not, we kind of tilt the penalty points towards, that element. So again, it's important that you keep track of these points, but we'll help you as much as possible to keep track of that. And, every Monday or Tuesday, I'm making sure I'm going through the list and seeing, okay, this is team, where are the sit outs that need to happen, and making sure teams know. So we try to do a pretty good job of that. So again, it's just going on with this, a red card, you have to sit out the next match. If you accumulate 20 points, which example is for a player, 4 yellow cards across the season, you got to sit out. And so these are things that, in terms of suspensions, and just the bottom part here, you can read it out. I won't read it out for you, but if you don't sit out matches, and you're having to verify after the fact with teams of, opponent, do you remember this player? Do you remember his picture? And most of the times they don't remember. And we'll try to help out too, if we can, to go to the referee and say, do you remember this happening? Do you remember the team saying this player had to sit out? And sometimes remember, sometimes they've done 8 games that day or that weekend, they don't remember. So do yourself a favor when it comes to, a player needs to sit out. When you have the roster, try to make it as obvious as possible on the roster that this player is sitting out. Like, mark through it, capital letters, sit out, and just so there's not any confusion. And because it happens every year and every season, and we trust that that they're telling the truth, but then we also have to verify it, and it's very hard to verify after the fact. And just to reiterate, it is a team admin's responsibility to keep track of the yellow card accumulation, red card accumulation over the course of the season. And if your player or your coach needs to sit out, as I mentioned, on Wednesday, we'll send out reminder emails of what players need to sit out as a courtesy email, but we'll also say, here's a link to the sit out form. And in order to count that a player sit out, you have to fill out that fillable PDF, print it off, bring it to the game, get the other team's team admin, coach to sign it, and then you can email it to us. You can take a picture of it and email it. The referee doesn't have anything to do with that. It's just the other team. So you're not handing it to the referee. They probably won't even know what you're talking about. They're just like, it's like, just talk to the league. So you really just need to go to the other team. Hey, here's a kid. He's not at the game, or he's there in street clothes. Can you verify he's not playing? Sign it, and then email it to us. And then you're at the end of the game, and you're done. You fulfilled your the sit out form requirement. So here's a copy of the form you can find under FAQs, and this is what it looks like. It's a fillable PDF. It should be pretty straightforward. But it was something every season we have this all filled out, and then at the bottom there aren't any signatures, and that doesn't count just to fill it out. The other team has to verify that that player actually did sit out. And obviously, going back to the referee issues, there are going to be times when there's going to be controversy at games. The game's not going to, there are going to be, calls in the game you're not going to agree with, and maybe the game ends in a difficult way, or people aren't feeling satisfied with the result of the game. It's really important that you follow the correct procedures of not confronting the referee and getting in touch with the club rep and providing as much information to your club rep. It never goes well when in the referee report, it says, this, I had the team, 5 parents come over to me at the end of the game, yell obscenities at me, and then follow me to the parking lot. And even, those kind of situations, it makes a very difficult case for yourself. It's saying we need to have a replay, or whatever it is, or sanctions against this person, when it's when it's hard to kind of get past that bad behavior after the game. So just make sure that you're educating your parents, educating yourself, that let the game go. Don't confront the referee. Contact your club rep, give them all the details, and the club rep will get the information to the R&D committee, and can leave it at that, because you would be surprised at some of the really poor behavior we hear at the end of the games, and just literally people, mobs of people following the referee and threatening them in the parking lot, and having to call the police to escort a referee to a parking lot. I mean, these things just can't happen, plain and simple. And so it's just, you do yourself a favor and just, okay, cool down. We'll tell your parents that I'll collect information, I'll get it to the club rep, and we'll take the appropriate route there. Allison mentioned this a little before, but referee no-shows, especially younger age groups, really encourages to go with the game. And if you're in an older age group, 11s and above, you have the option to play with a volunteer official, but you have to mutually agree to that volunteer officiating the match, and then signing in on the other team's roster. And the important thing is that if you agree before the match, if the result doesn't go your way at the end of the match, you can't protest it after the fact if you've agreed to that beforehand. Important thing to note here is that both teams have to agree. If one team says we're okay with the volunteer official and the other one says no, we're not comfortable with that, the league's not going to force you to play. If one team doesn't agree to play with the volunteer official, it automatically goes to reschedule. And that's where Allison comes in, and she puts the next available date, and that's how it's handled in those cases where there's not an agreement on using a volunteer official. As we come to the end here, just a reminder about the helpful resources. Highly encourage you, bookmark this page, season checklist, bookmark the game day cheat sheet. Both of those are on the main page and this menu here. Those are really kind of walk you through the important things you need to be doing now in the preseason, as well as when you get into the season, and making sure you're taking the appropriate steps leading up to a game, at the game, post game. And again, of course, if those resources don't answer all your questions, please reach out to your club representative, as they're a wealth of knowledge within the club about NCSL, and they can answer almost every question. If they can't, they'll reach out to us, and we'll get back to them very quickly with the answer. So that's it for this evening. Before we open up to Q&A, there's a reminder that we will have an additional session on the 25th. If maybe you review the recording or the presentation this evening, and you have additional questions, here's the link that will be sent out, so you can get this link through the presentation, or your club rep has probably already sent you this. But we'll have another session this week just to clarify anything else. So with that, we'll end there and open up to Q&A. If you want to unmute yourself, or if you want to type anything into the chat, we're happy to answer those questions. And also pull up the NCSL website here, if anybody wants to kind of a walkthrough of what we were talking about, and just wants to kind of a real time answer.
Question for U9, do we need to have a roster like the card you guys mentioning about?
Yes. So every NCSL game, you need to have a physical roster and the player cards. The player cards don't have to be physically handed to the referee. You could have a PDF on your phone. You're kind of scrolling and showing that, but you need to show a physical roster and player cards at the game.
Every game. Okay.
Yes.
And the score you guys mentioned that for U9s, we don't update that in a public. What does that mean? They will not see where the team stands. Is that what I mean?
Right. So it's so for U9, U10 games, even if they're reported, they won't be public. We have a setting on the back end for us that doesn't, if we could get scores, they won't show publicly. We kind of want to use those U9, U10 years to allow kids to, not be, having to think about results right away, and to have plenty of time. U11 and above, will have the Division 1, 2, and 3, and you can see results and all that. But we don't do that for 9s and 10s. We keep it on that background, so that we can kind of inform our spring 2023 placements, just to see if we need to make any tweaks. But not that we don't put it public.
Okay, thank you. So sorry, one follow-up question on the spring. So this, after the fall, there will be a spring season. Is that, or this is the season out for all the games?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
So the season from September to November.
Yes.
Is that's the season, right? Or after that, there is no games, right?
Right. So our games start the September 10th and 11th weekend, and they'll go. The latest games, correct me if I'm wrong, Allison, will be November 13th. No games will be played after November 13th, and that concludes the fall season. And then the spring season won't begin most likely until early April. That's the spring season.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
And I saw some people had some questions about finding their team schedules and kind of the login information. So if you can see my screen, the club information, you'll find a list of clubs. I'll just go to A3 here. It's the first one that pops up. It has you. Oh, sorry. That's not a good one. Alexandria, next one here up. So if you click on that club, you'll see a whole list of the fall 2022 teams. If you click on one of these teams, so if your team is Alexandria 2013 Boys Red, you'll see the contact information, your schedule, and if you want to log on your team, you go up to the top right. And then some people were saying that they didn't have their PIN, but if you click here, if you don't have a PIN, you click here, and you'll be asked to put in your team information about your email address, and it'll pop out. It'll email your PIN to your email address. So that's kind of another way to retrieve that PIN. And I'm not sure about changing your PIN. Allison may know more of me about that. I think your club rep would have to change it.
Actually, once you have signed in and you can modify your contact information, I believe you can change your PIN. But if you can't, then contact your club rep. But I think that's part of what you can change to make it something easier to memorize.
Okay.
Yeah.
So feel free to keep adding it to the chat if you have other questions or unmuting yourself. So how do you get into your VYSA login? So VYSA is a completely different system. We don't what we're doing on the league end is completely separate to the registration process at the state association level. So if you're looking for your login, that's best to contact your club rep, because that's what they're mainly going to be doing at this point in time. And just a question about this, the recording and the PDF of the slides, that'll be put here. So you'll see right now it says Spring 2022 admin meeting. That will be replaced this evening with Fall 2022, and also the slides right here. So that'll be available right on the website. And as soon as we end, I'll start working on uploading that, and it'll be in place tomorrow morning at the latest. Regarding game score reporting, so this is a link for game score reporting right here on the main page. You click it. These are the three things you need: the PIN number, the game number, the teams, and the score. So the PIN number is 3101. And is that listed on here, Allison? Yeah, the cheat sheet. I'm not sure if it is. If it's not, then we'll put it in here. We'll put the PIN number on the game day cheat sheet, but it's also on the season checklist, the post game. 3101 right here. For the roster, do you just write in the game number and date on the physical roster? Yes. Yes, you can write it in. That's probably the easiest to do. You know, it's nothing super official. It's really there to help a tired referee at the end of the day keep track of entering the referee reports and making sure they put the right information in. Yeah, so game, especially for the fall, is not as important for the spring for U9, U10s. But you know, if you got a U9 score, a U10 score, even though it won't show publicly, it's definitely helpful for us when going to the spring season, because we do take that into account of for placing teams in the correct division for the spring season. So if you're a U9, U10 team, if your team wins, do please put that information in because it is helpful, even though it won't show.
Is the next meeting the one on the 25th or something, the following one, that there's no presentation? Is that mandatory as well?
No, it's there's no presentation. It's really right. We'll go over a few things, just a reminder about these two documents, really. But from there, it's an open Q&A from there. So it won't be a presentation like tonight.